Morning. Welcome to the worship of the community at First Unitarian Church of Omaha. I'm Russell, your worship associate. My wife, Lynn, worked on the service with me. We have guests from out of town flying back to Chicago today, but she did a lot of research and help on this. Whether you're attending online or in person, I'm glad you have chosen to join us for worship. Special welcome to visitors. This congregation is a community of all ages and abilities. It is a community with a rainbow of gender and sexual identities. It is a community of diverse cultural and class backgrounds. We draw from many resources of inspiration and share common liberal religious values. Whoever you are welcome to bring your whole self into this community. If you are joining us online, we encourage you to create a YouTube account to sign in when you attend online. This will give you access to the comment feature on YouTube. You can use the comments to share joys and concerns that will be lifted into worship to say hello to other online attendees or to share something about how the service connected with you. For those here in person, you are invited to, after the service, to go down to the common room, which is right downstairs, to join us for coffee and conversation. You can use the stairs off the foyers over here to the right. Today we will present a panel of speakers to share our Memorial Day perspectives. I want to make sure everybody is aware that we will be touching on the subject of PTSD and suicide. If that's a trigger for you, I want you to protect yourself from injury. Our church occupies the traditional treaty lands of Omaha and Noto, Missouri tribal nations whose sovereignty existed long before the state of Nebraska. We'd also like to express our respect to the Ponca tribe of Nebraska, the Winnebago tribe of Nebraska, the Santee Sioux tribe of Nebraska, and over 170 other tribes represented in the Omaha area. At First Unitarian Church of Omaha, we invite all to join us to go beyond acknowledgments by educating ourselves and supporting causes, charities, and rights of indigenous people in the area. There's a web address listed in your order of service that is for one of the resources that helps with indigenous people's urban health in Nebraska. This morning, Sarah Copeland will light our flaming chalice. Yes, let's do some music. Terrific. Thank you, Lloyd.
It's time you stopped rambling, there's work to be done. So they gave me a tin hat and they gave me a gun, and they marched me away to the war. And the band played waltzing Matilda, and the ship pulled away from the quay. Amidst all the cheers, the flag waving and tears, we sailed off for Gallipoli. How well I remember that terrible day, how our blood stained the sand and the water, and how in that hell that they called Suvla Bay, butchered like lambs at the slaughter. Johnny Turkey was waiting, he primed himself well. He showered us with bullets and he rained us with shell. And in 10 minutes flat, he'd blown us all to hell. Nearly blew us right back to Australia. And the band played Waltzing Matilda. When we stopped to bury our slain, we buried ours and the Turks buried theirs. Then it started all over again. And those that were left, well, we tried to survive in that mad world of blood, death, and fire. And for 10 weary weeks, I kept myself alive, while around me the corpses piled higher. Then a big Turkish shell knocked me ass over head, and when I awoke in my hospital bed, saw what it had done, I wished I was dead. Never knew there were worse things than dying. For I'll go no more waltzing Matilda, all around the green bush far and free. To hump tent and pegs, a man needs both legs. No more waltzing Matilda for me. And now every April I sit on my porch and I watch the parade pass before me. And I see my old comrades, how proudly they march, reliving old dreams and past glory. And the old men march slowly, their bones stiff and sore, the tired old heroes of a forgotten war. And the young people ask, what are they marching for? And I ask myself the same question. But the band plays Waltzing Matilda, and the old men still answer the call. But as year follows year, more old men disappear. Someday no one will march here at all. Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, oh, come waltzing Matilda with me. And their ghosts may be heard as they march past that billabong. Oh, come on, waltzing Matilda with me.
Thank you, Lloyd. That was beautiful. Sarah, would you like to join us now? Please join me. Spark of the Spirit, cupped in earth's embrace, light of love, alive in all creation. As we kindle this flame, we rekindle our connection with its sacred web of life. In November of last year, we had the pleasure of having Reverend Dennis McCarty join us for Veterans Day. And he was the source of He was my source for our call to worship. Nothing is ordained for us, neither delight nor defeat, nor peace nor war. Life flows, and we must choose with our hearts and our hands, moment by moment, day by day. We can, if we will, begin to change the world we have into the world we want. Please stand if you are able and join us in hymn number 96, I Cannot Think of Them as Dead. Sherry Connor is going to lead our story for all ages this morning.
This one? Well, they'll be able to see. Yeah, sorry. Okay. Just making sure it's all. Hello. So, this little girl right here, her name is Grayson. And we're going to read about her life. It's titled, My Life with a Military Parent, or a Parent in the Military. This one is, this is special to me. And I'm glad that Miss Christina chose this book, because this little girl, Grayson, could have been me. This was also my life growing up. And then also the life of my children when they grew up, not you, but because my husband and I both served in the military. There we go. Hello, my name is Grayson. I enjoy karate, ice skating, and skiing. I also like to draw. My family is a little different from most. My dad is in the military. Let me tell you about my life. My dad wanted to help people and serve his country. He became a doctor for the United States Air Force. The Air Force is a branch of the military. Dad was a doctor for the Air Force pilots and their crew. He made sure they stayed healthy. Now he's a doctor at a hospital on a military base. Being in the military usually means moving a lot. The Air Force needs Dad's help at different places. My family and I have moved 3 times. We will probably move again in a few years. Oops, sorry. Oops. Sorry about that, forgot to click. And of course, the joyous move. The last move was stressful. I had to say goodbye to all my friends. Then I tried to make new friends. At first, this made me nervous because I was shy. And now I'm more outgoing like my brother. We play outside a lot. We meet friends that way. Mom helps me find new friends, too. She meets other military families, and then all of us play together. Moving was hard, but people made it easier for my family. When we moved to Alaska, I couldn't bring my pet fish with me. Our long trip was too far for my fish to travel. A friend took care of my fish instead. People also helped us when we got to our new house. They gave us furniture to use until our moving truck arrived, and they gave us food too. Moving means being away from my relatives. I miss my grandparents and cousins. I mail them pictures, I draw, and we talk on the phone, but it's not the same as being with them in person. While moving is not easy, there are some great things about it. I get to travel to new places. I get to explore different parts of the United States. Lots of things change when we move, but some things stay the same. We bring our 3 dogs with us every time we move. I don't have to say goodbye to them, and that helps me a lot. Sometimes Dad has to go away for training, and sometimes he has to work overseas for a short time. That's called a remote. I miss Dad when he's away. Grandma gave me a teddy bear. It has a military uniform on it. And this reminds me of Dad and makes me feel better. Grandma and Grandpa visit us when Dad is away. That makes me feel better too. When Dad is away, I can't wait for him to come home. Many of my friends have parents in the military. They know just how I feel. I count down the days. One time, Mom and I made a long paper chain. Each chain link stood for one day. Every day we took off one link, and the chain got shorter and shorter. I could see that Dad would be home soon. People, excuse me, people in the military make lots of sacrifices. They have to move often. They are often away from home, and it's not easy. It makes me feel really appreciated spending time with Dad. We are all proud of him for serving our country. And the end.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
I'm gonna let it shine, this little light of mine. Thank you. Each week, we share our blessings with others through a community offering. Half of those loose currency in the offering plate is donated to a local cause which resonates with UU values. If you are online or prefer to give via your smartphone, you can use the QR code or the link provided. Our Share the Plate recipient is Access Period. Access Period helps combat period poverty by providing free menstrual products to anyone who needs them in Nebraska. 1 in 4 people who menstruate experience period poverty in their lifetime. Our special music for our offer is titled Mount St. Michael, performed by Jason Johnson, who is a U.S. Navy veteran. Thank you, Jason. Let us share joys and concern. Those online can put items to be shared in the comment area. Colin will read those items that have been submitted in advance and items that have been submitted this morning. Thank you, Colin. Do we have anything?
From Douglas Lee Regier saying, thoughts be with the peace warriors and the veterans of peace this Memorial Day. A joy from Patricia Pyatt saying that her best friend is visiting this church from Wyoming. Welcome, Gail.
Thank you, Colin. For our contemplation this morning, we will sing Coming Home, located in the Teal hymnal. Make yourself comfortable, and we will sing it 2 times through. Then we will have a moment of silence. I'll end the period of silence with a bell. Back cover of the Teal hymnal. We have one more caring concern. Tommy Thompson broke his hip. Cards are appreciated. This morning, instead of having one speaker or reader, it's a panel of veterans. 2 of our speakers are staff members of our church. And then our final speaker is Stephen Meester, who is a member who lives in D.C. He is a colonel in the U.S. Air Force stationed at the Pentagon. He sent us a video. Memorial Day has a long and complicated history. Originally created during the Civil War, it was known as Decoration Day and celebrated by decorating graves with flowers by Union veterans. This was usually done on May 30th, but then changed to last Monday in May in 1971 as a federal holiday. Those of us who have served are usually very left-brained and love to use proper nomenclature. We'll point out to you that Veterans Day is in November, and that those that have served in the armed forces, that are serving Armed Forces Day is the third Saturday in May, and Memorial Day is to honor those that were killed in combat. Whether as a veteran or someone currently serving, this is our high holy day. We know that from the moment we shine our boots and put on our uniform, that while it is not our goal, death is a possibility. We are often offended by the idea that the day is being exploited as a crass way to sell everything from cars to potato chips. The seed for this service started many months ago when I was talking with a neighbor who had been a combat medic in the Army and the Air Force. We discussed the fact that emergency medicine and aviation have advanced and that we have been able to extend the golden hour into the battlefield. The golden hour is the period of time following an injury that if a person is given emergency care, it increases the ability to save a life. The problem lies in the fact that we are now saving lives with life-changing injuries. Where we are failing is that we are not doing enough to preserve their quality of life. Throughout time, soldiers have returned home with mental health issues that are often made difficult to talk about their experiences. We used to call it shell-shocked or battle fatigue. We now call it PTSD. We need to do better as a nation at providing assistance to our heroes and preventing service or related suicides. I find it interesting that Memorial Day is celebrated during the month of May, which also happens to be Mental Health Awareness Month. And June is PTSD Awareness Month. During college, my wife Lynn wrote a story that says, a person dies of many small deaths before they stop breathing. I have provided some information in the common room for those needing resources for mental health issues. The other side of this Memorial Day is that Memorial Day is the official start of summer. So go and enjoy your barbecues because this freedom has been paid for. I will finish with this prayer from Julie Yoon Kim, who is a singer-songwriter and a Unitarian. God of my ancestors, thank you for keeping us alive in your memory. What war and death cut short, you hold for all time. May the stories of the dead be strength and wisdom for the living. Thank you. Our first speaker is going to be kindness.
Okay, I'm on a level with y'all. I had no idea what I was going to talk about. I talked with Russell about what all was going to be happening and everything, getting this all organized, and I volunteered my time to speak. And I mean, obviously, I'm not dead yet. I'm a Air Force vet, Cannon Air Force Base, New Mexico. I was stationed there for 3.5 years. I did aircrew flight equipment. Means I worked on parachutes, survival kits, rafts, all like the last minute emergency equipment for the aircrew. I have this one instance where when I got my discharge paperwork and everything, I noticed that I was given, I think it was like oak leaf cluster or something like that. Some small insignificant award and everything. The reason why I was given it is because I packed the life preservers that went on an AC-130J model to Syria, and the preservers that I had packed were for additional support crew on this plane. But the primary mission of this plane was to drop a MOAB on the folks in Syria. And I think it's kind of messed up that they gave me an award for that, but what I want to draw attention to for this Memorial Day is the story of Aaron Bushnell. For those of you who don't know, Aaron Bushnell, back in February, he stood outside the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C., and he set himself on fire. I'm going to read you the CNN article from February 26th of this year. An active duty member of the U.S. Air Force who set himself on fire outside the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. on Sunday has died, authorities said. Aaron Bushnell, 25, said in a video of the incident obtained by CNN that he would no longer be complicit in genocide, and that his suffering was minimal compared to that of the Palestinians as the humanitarian crisis in Gaza persists. He then sets the recording device on the ground before pouring an unknown liquid over himself and igniting it while yelling, "Free Palestine," repeatedly. He eventually collapses as police officers rush to douse the flames with fire extinguishers. He was subsequently transported by DC Fire and Emergency Services to a local hospital where he has died, the Metropolitan Police Department said in a statement. Local police are working with the U.S. Secret Service and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives to investigate the incident, which took place around 1 p.m. in Northwest Washington. Bushnell's identity was confirmed by MPD on that Sunday. The Air Force also confirmed his identity Monday and said he was a cyber defense operations specialist assigned to the 70th Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance Wing. He served with the 531st Intelligence Support Squadron and has been on active duty since May of 2020, according to the Air Force. We extend our deepest sympathies to the family and friends of Senior Aaron Bushnell. Our thoughts and prayers are with them, and we ask that you respect their privacy during this difficult time, said Colonel Selena Noyes, the commander of the 70th ISR Wing, in a statement. The 70th ISR Wing gathers intelligence across airspace and cyberspace, according to its website, working alongside the National Security Agent in supporting intelligence needs across the Air Force and the military. A spokesperson from the Israeli embassy said no embassy staff were injured during the incident. In December, a person set themselves on fire outside the Israeli consulate in Atlanta, Georgia, in what police said was likely an extreme act of political protest. A Palestinian flag was part of that protest and was recovered at the scene. And gasoline was used as an accelerant, police and fire officials told reporters in a news conference. Israel is waging war against Hamas in Gaza, and the group's October 7th terror attacks have killed 1,200 people in Israel, according to Israeli authorities. The response has killed nearly 30,000 people in Gaza, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. Now, this was back in February, and I'm sure those numbers have changed greatly since. But as we remember all the veterans and whatnot that have passed away here, fighting for our freedom, let's not forget to memorialize those that are fighting for freedom of oppressed peoples across the world. Thank you.
Well spoken, kindness. Thank you. Mikkel, would you like to join us?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mikkel. My pronouns are Zizim, Ziz. And today, as we gather here on Memorial Day weekend, I wanted to share some thoughts on my experience in the military and reflect on how it connects with our Unitarian Universalism values. I'm grateful for Russell for inviting me to speak up here. As I've been preparing for this, and today, like before today, prepared for this, it really helped me bring about all my experiences in the military, not all of them, of course, but like all of the important ones I want to share with you and put them together in some kind of cohesive order. It helped me heal from some of the impact that the military has had on my mental health. And I'm grateful for the service so far today. I don't want to spend too much time talking about this, but like, I just wrote some taps, like the taps that were, well, he didn't play taps, but Jason, thank you so much for playing that. It just reminds me of being overseas, stationed overseas, and I'm feeling so alone, and taps at the end of the night would play, like all over base, you could hear it, and it was really loud. But it was like bedtime. It was like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, or maybe it was 8:30, I don't know. But it was basically telling everybody to go to sleep. And I just thought that was so beautiful because people in the United States were being told to go to sleep too. And I was like, oh my goodness, we're connected. And I was usually outside watching the moon. And I just felt like they're watching the moon too, and woo. And so that was really special for me to hear that the rest of the music play with the trumpet. And the military kid stuff, like I raised 2 kids while active duty, and well, I got out of active duty just so I could spend more time with them, but I did, it was challenging to raise children in the military. They say like, oh, we support the family and stuff, but they put the mission first. Just don't be kidding, like, there's no joking there. I put the mission first, the families come second. It's pretty true. And then also Coming Home, the song Coming Home, I used to always climb the same tree when I was growing up, and I would sing to the tree, and then when I was overseas, I would sing the same songs, and then be like, the tree can hear me from across the world. But Coming Home was like, anyway, so I'm grateful to be here today talking to you. Thank you so much. I prepared a speech thing to talk to you about. Memorial Day is a time to honor and remember those who have served and sacrificed their lives in the military. And traditionally, we think of these sacrifices in terms of lives lost on the battlefield, in the heat of combat. However, there's another often overlooked aspect of military service that also demands our attention and care, and that's the mental and emotional well-being of our service members while they're still on active duty. During my time in the military, I witnessed firsthand how deeply the experiences of service can impact one's mental health. Many of my fellow service members struggled not because they were physically harmed in combat, but because they were not adequately prepared for the psychological stressors they would face. The military trains us to be resilient, to endure physical hardship, and to face danger with courage. However, it often falls short in preparing us for the mental and emotional challenges that come with practicing and carrying out the actions of war. Suicide is a public health issue and a leading cause of death in the United States, particularly among veterans. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs reports that more than 45,000 adults died by suicide in 2019, with veterans accounting for over 6,000 suicides, nearly 14% of all adult suicides. It's a lot of numbers, but on average, there's about 17 veterans dying each day of suicide. If combat did not kill them, their mental wounds did, like a slow-burning fuse, eroding their will to live until there was no life left worth living. Unitarian Universalism calls us to affirm and promote our inherent worth and dignity of every person. This principle compels us to consider the full spectrum of well-being for our military personnel. It's not enough to honor their physical bravery. We must also ensure they have the mental and emotional support they need ahead of time to endure the psychological aspects that come with trying to learn how to, and sometimes succeeding, at killing another human being or helping that effort. In my experience, the military system often does not provide sufficient mental health care while service members are still on active duty. There is stigma around seeking help, and even when one does seek it, the resources available are frequently inadequate. I served 8 years of active duty, 6 of them in combat units. My unit's motto at one of my stations that I was there for like 4 years was anytime, anywhere. We could set up air traffic control systems anywhere in the world within 48 hours of getting the call. We played war stateside every quarter. Different deployment locations were called theaters because they all have a slightly different playbook, different directors, different actors, etc. One of the bases I was stationed at even purchased an old, run-down neighborhood nearby so we could practice urban combat in our pretend theater of war. Just like method acting, you know how Heath Ledger, he died by suicide because of his role in playing the Joker, and he was so much into his mental state of playing that role that afterwards, that movie concluded, he killed himself due to his mental anguish in preparing for that role. In the military, we have theaters of war all over the world, and we practice in those theaters. We make our own theaters up of war, and we practice killing people in different ways and helping people do that. We feed them, we clothe them, even if we're not doing it ourselves. Like I set up air traffic control towers. That was my job. But those towers directed planes that were doing the killing. So we're all playing a little part in it, you know? And they're not preparing us psychologically for that. While I did not personally go to an overseas theater, many of my coworkers and supervisors did. One of my coworkers on a different deployed flight, he deployed many times, and he came back each time a little different. And my husband at the time was controlling and would not let me befriend my coworker. So I kept checking in with his supervisors, and they told me he was home with his family on mental health rest. And then we had a funeral for him 2 weeks later. He was in a therapy program that kept getting interrupted by deployments because the mission always comes first. And they stabilized him on medication, so it was totally fine and acceptable to send him out to war again and again. My very first active duty roommate was kicked out of the military for being gay. Just last week, we still keep in touch, we were talking about, she was having very realistic nightmares about the games that we played in Korea, the war games. The sound of the sirens and their different meanings, they're calling to action, like the different things mean do different things, like different sirens. And like some of them have us prepare for a chemical attack, others prepare us for a physical attack. And the smell of gunshots when they fired blanks, these are the things that she was talking to me about, and I lived through that too. And so like, right now I think I'll talk about this later, but when I was first sent out to go on the watchtower in Korea, and I would report enemy movements, I was the first one because I was a newbie. I was the first to die, and then I would get sent to the morgue, and then they had snacks there. So, I got to go home after my shift from the morgue. So I usually just died first, and that was what I did because I was a newbie. To this day, certain frequencies of meditation bowls send me into flight mode. Like the sirens and the meditation bowls, they sound so similar sometimes with the different frequencies and meaning certain things. The lack of support when the wounds are occurring can lead to devastating consequences, including depression, anxiety, and tragically suicide long after the war. It's that slow-burning fuse I was talking about earlier, sucking the life out of military personnel until there's no life left that's worth living. Remember, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs reports that an average of 17 veterans die each day by suicide. Our Unitarian Universalist commitment to justice, equity, and compassion in human relations urges us to advocate for better mental health care for our military members. We must push for systematic changes that provide comprehensive mental health support before, during, and after active duty. This means training service members to cope with the psychological stress before they encounter it, offering continuous mental health services while they serve, and ensuring that veterans have access to health care when they need it to return to civilian life. In my civilian life, I became a recreational therapist. I went and got my bachelor's degree, and I'm a recreational therapist now, and I specialize in mental health. And one of my passions right now and my initiatives in the nonprofit that I started is to create an AFSC, a job in the military, in the Air Force specifically. That's where I served in the Air Force. And to create a job. So everyone has jobs, like my job was setting up towers kind of thing. There's not a job in the Air Force for recreational therapy. And in the VA, where I get all my health care from, they have lots of rec therapists, and the rec therapy has been shown to be really, really helpful with PTSD. And yet we don't have that available for active duty to resolve their, or at least, I didn't write this part down, so this is going off script, but like, they just don't have it, active duty. Like, why is this not available for active duty? It just makes no sense to me. Anyway, I would like for there to be an AFSC in the active duty military in the Air Force, because that's where I started. But that is rec therapy because it helps a lot with PTSD, like it's evidence-based. Anyway, on this Memorial Day, let us remember not only those who have fallen in battle, but also those who continue to fight battles within themselves. Let us honor their service by committing to advocate for the mental health and emotional well-being. Let us work towards a world where every service member receives the comprehensive care they deserve, reflecting our Unitarian Universalist values of dignity, justice, and compassion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mikhail. Now our message from Stephen Meester. Like I mentioned before, he is a colonel in the United States Air Force. He's stationed at the Pentagon. He messaged me the other day. He's doing overnight shifts, so he may be actually watching it live stream, or maybe he'll catch it a little later today. But kindness, if you go ahead and.
Good morning, First Unitarian of Omaha. Stephen Meister. It's been a while, and I want to thank Russell for the honor of asking me to provide my thoughts on Memorial Day. And many of you may remember a Memorial Day service I conducted about 10 years ago. I'm amazed it's been that long, but I guess that's kind of in keeping with the spirit of the day. And Memorial Day strikes me a little differently, a little less personally than many of my brothers and sisters in arms. Because of my particular specialty, few of us deploy, so I haven't lost as many comrades as others. But we have had a few, to include some who died by suicide. Their wounds should not be treated as any less than any other, and their deaths should be honored as well. As I thought about what to say, my mind turned to a very recent visit to the National Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., and the photos of Allied servicemen as they discovered the horrors of the Nazi death camps. We who wear and have worn our nation's uniform do indeed stand on the shoulders of ordinary men and women who did extraordinary things for the people of their time and for us in ours. In particular, today, we honor those who, as President Lincoln noted at Gettysburg, gave the last full measure of devotion, then and since. This excerpt from the book War Zone Faith by UU Chaplain George Tiger, U.S. Army, still resonates and really kind of sums up my thoughts on this day quite well. So I'm going to share that with you as I did 10 years ago. These memories, these ghosts, are necessary reminders of the futility of war and the desperate need for peace in our world. These memories which come upon me not as thoughts, but as bodily sensations, have deepened my compassion and steeled my commitment to bringing peace to a suffering world. How then can I speak of peace? This is the difficulty of a holiday like Memorial Day. Memorial Day is not to be celebrated. It is to be observed, scrutinized, and witnessed on behalf of the true witness of our human failure to love our neighbor as ourselves. They are ghosts now, haunting lives with the gift of remembrance so that we will not forget their living, but even more, that the grief of remembering will create in us a yearning for peace that will stir us to action. And Chaplain Tiger's call for action is for all of us, not just those in uniform. It's not enough to hope for peace. It takes deep compassion and steeled commitment, especially in an age of such internal division and strife in this country. We must strive to be worthy of the gift that Tiger's ghosts have given. And to help me in my own striving, I recently came upon Rabbi Harold Kushner's 2003 poem, A Prayer for the World. And I'd like to share that in closing. Let the rain come and wash away the ancient grudges, the bitter hatreds held and nurtured over generations. Let the rain wash away the memory of the hurt, the neglect. Then let the sun come out and fill the sky with rainbows. Let the warmth of the sun heal us wherever we are broken. Let it burn away the fog so that we can see each other clearly, so that we can see beyond labels, beyond accents, gender, or skin color. Let the warmth and brightness of the sun melt our selfishness so that we can share the joys and feel the sorrows of our neighbors. And let the light of the sun be so strong that we will see all people as our neighbors. Let the earth, nourished by rain, bring forth flowers to surround us with beauty. And let the mountains teach our hearts to reach upward to heaven. Amen. Thank you for giving me these few moments. I miss you all and wish you all the best.
Jason, do you have taps for us?
Good morning. I really didn't expect to do this. Telling stories was not on my list of things to do. As mentioned before, I spent 8 years in the military. I was in the U.S. Navy from 1997 until 2004. First duty station was in Seattle, Washington, and my second duty station was luckily in Naples, Italy. And there's many stories to be told about my time, and none are appropriate for this moment, except for one. During my last year of service, it was in Europe, and it was all of the anniversary celebrations of D-Day and the liberation of France and Paris, and the years that I were there, it was the 60th anniversary. This year we're celebrating all the 80th anniversary celebrations there this summer. And so during this occasion, we were in northern France for about 3 weeks, playing for various festivities regarding D-Day. And we were in the middle of a ceremony, and I got a phone call. Well, actually, my officer in charge, Lieutenant McDonald, got a phone call from the northern commander of the NATO forces in northern Italy. And there was another ceremony that was being held concurrently with the one that we were on in the Netherlands. And if I remember correctly, and my World War II history knowledge is a little rusty, but I believe it was a ceremony commemorating the Battle of the Bulge. And so my lieutenant approached me and said, hey, we just got called to go out to the Netherlands, just you and I, and they want somebody to play taps for this ceremony that was taking place, and we have to leave now. So, you know, another moment of sheer excitement, and during that time I was elated. And so we went to the ceremony, just my boss and I, and when it came for the moment to play taps, I finished playing taps, and as I was finishing playing and various people were speaking with me, I felt a little tug on my end. Whew. I felt a little tug on my uniform, and it was this little girl, maybe 6, maybe 7 years old. And she had, in the Netherlands, they have a traditional part of their clothing, the clogs. Ever seen the wooden clogs that they have? Well, she had in her hand a pair of ceramic, like kind of gift shop clogs that you'd take for a souvenir. And she handed them to me, and she She pointed at her grandfather, who was in a wheelchair. Thank you. Maybe 10 feet, to the right of me. Pointed and said, "My grandfather wanted me to give these to you." He doesn't speak English, and man, I did exactly what I'm doing right now. And I looked over him, and oh man, he must have been 80 or 90 years old, but boy, just the way he looked at me, and I was in my uniform, and the way he looked at me was just really, 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 really poignant and memorable. So anyway, I hope that, I guess the reason I wanted to tell this story, and myself, and like myself and everybody in the room, I think it's really, really easy to get bogged down in the controversy of the day. But I hope we all remember the times where, heroes lost their lives for a good purpose. So, anyway, thank you.
I had closing words planned out, but there's nothing left to say.